Hey everybody, Corey here. We're working through U squared by Price Pritchett, the high velocity formula for multiplying personal effectiveness and creating quantum leaps in your life with your goals and with your achievement. And we're looking today at the chapter on titled Change Your Personal Rules for Success. So we're just reading through these short chapters and then kind of discussing ideas as we work through it. So let's get started. Leveraging up your personal effectiveness by an order of magnitude, going from U to U squared, is not a commonplace idea. You should not be surprised to hear that unconventional success calls for unconventional approaches. Quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior, unusual moves, actions that on the surface often seem to contradict common sense. As human beings, though, we ordinarily go with the obvious. We fall into the habit of relying on behaviours that seem to have worked best for us over the years. When we take an approach that seems to be very serviceable and which enables us to perform well and succeed, we become very attached to it. We don't readily relinquish that habit pattern. In fact, there's a tendency to follow our favourite approach more and more often, such that we get better and better at handling things in a particular way. So the starting point here is that he talks about we don't readily relinquish a habit pattern. We become very attached to it, and there's a tendency to follow our favorite approach. So when we start to go for a quantum leap in our results, in order to do that, we're going to require, it says quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior. So unusual moves, actions that on the surface often seem to contradict common sense. We're going to have to get away from the comfortable habitual behavioral patterns, the ideas that we've held in the past, because that's by behaving in the way that we've behaved in the past and thinking in the way that we've thought in the past, we're going to achieve the same results as what we've achieved in the past. So the premise here in the books that is that a quantum leap is absolutely possible. We can go and create exponential jumps in our results and see massive gains in our levels of success. But in order to do that, and we can do that through utilizing resources that we've already got. And predominantly, he talks about the resources are understanding ourselves in a different way, looking at the way that we behave and the way that we approach things in a different way. And that different approach is going to give us a different result. And so he said, we ordinarily, as human beings, we ordinarily go with the obvious. We fall into the habit of relying on behaviors that have worked for us over the years. And the reason that we do that is because it becomes safe and it becomes comfortable and it becomes easy. We don't have to be uncomfortable. It's predictable. We know what's going to happen. It's easy for us. But the problem with that is that by doing the same things a little bit more with a little bit more intensity, a little bit longer, a little bit harder, what happens is we get a little bit better results, but the payoff is nowhere near what we're looking for. When we relinquish what we've held on to in the past and we start to embrace new ideas, new behavioral patterns, then we're going to start to see completely new results. And quite often, it's not proportional to the amount of effort and the amount of change that we've made. It's quite often the other way. It's quite often the results are greatly increased in proportion to the change in effort that we've made. It's the change that makes the difference. So there's a tendency to follow our favorite approach more and more often, such that we get better and better at handling things in that particular way. This adroitness with a certain approach results in our over-dependence on the strategies and tactics that it involves. We resist new maneuvers because they make us feel clumsy, awkward, and more at risk. So the reason that we stay where we are is because by having to learn to employ new skills and new maneuvers here, he says new maneuvers, we end up feeling clumsy and awkward and more at risk. And that's always the case because when you've never done something before, it always feels awkward. The first 2 or 3 times you do something, you're always going to feel awkward, but that quickly disappears and it becomes a part of the established behavioral pattern. But if you want to accelerate your rate of achievement rapidly, you must search out and vigorously employ new behaviors, new attitudes. You must be willing to break out of your routines in order to make a quantum leap. So we're going to talk about this more in videos in the future, but it's the habitual thought patterns that control our behavior. Majority of over 90% of our behavior is habitual. It happens without any conscious intervention on our part. We just do it automatically. An example of that would be driving to work, and then you get there and you wonder how you got there. And it's the subconscious mind, the mental program that's controlling you, the habits, your habitual behavior that performs the task. And we have to change these behaviors. We have to change the routines and the habits that are controlling the behavior, because it's the behavior that creates results. It's not ideas that create results. It's not what's happening in your conscious mind. It's not information, knowledge, doing a course, reading a book that creates the results for you. It's the implementation of that information, and the implementation happens through action, and action is habitual. So we need to remove old habitual patterns and replace them with new ones. So you must be willing to break out of your routines in order to make the quantum leap. The things that worked for you in the past very likely could sooner or later lose their serviceability. Even if your customary approach still holds promise for maintaining your present level of performance and growth curve, it may not help much if you want to hit far higher levels of achievement. So we have to break out of this customary use, this customary approach towards performance. And if we go back to an earlier statement here, he says that quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior. If you continue to rely on these old routines, maybe even leaning on them most when your performance flattens out or sags, you create a trap for yourself. If we go back to the old patterns that have given us the results that we've had in the past, when things start to get tough or difficult or performance flattens out, then we're going to lose. We're going to just take a U-turn and go back to where we came from. There is a certain irony here. Your historically most dependable behaviors can become the major obstacles to your future success. It's possible for them to cripple your progress. They may stand as personal boundary lines that limit you to what you can accomplish in your life. And with the quantum leap, we want to be moving these boundary lines further and further forward and out from the center as often as possible. There is, however, another course of action. It's the way of the quantum leap, U squared. The following chapters are going to explain the peculiar strategy that is involved. So that's really an outline of what's to come here. I guess that's the end of the chapter, but to summarize this, I would say that what he's saying is that if we want to create a quantum leap, if we want to create new results that are completely different and greater than results that we've created in the past, then we need to completely change our way of thinking. We need to create paradoxical behavior, unusual moves and actions on the surface that seem to contradict common sense. So it's all about changing the way that we think about what's going on here and the way that we behave and the actions that we're going to take. And as we go through this book, we're going to look in more detail at how we go about doing that. And this is a great book. It's an amazing book. As I'm reading this and doing these videos, I'm doing it on my Facebook page as well. I'm getting loads of insight, and it's really helping me to create the quantum leaps that I want in my life as well. So I'm really pleased to be sharing this with you. I hope you like it. Please subscribe to my channel. It's going to be an amazing channel. We're going to have loads of good stuff on here. It's going to be well worth getting involved with it. There's going to be lots of value, and it's going to really help you, I hope. So thanks very much, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video.